A very good morning to one and all. I request all of you to put your phone on silent mode. Thank you for your cooperation. Today, we all have gathered here to celebrate Tagore Jayanti, which is a cultural celebration to mark the birth anniversary of one of the most celebrated, exceptional literary icon, Gurudev Rabindranath Tagore. Revered across the world for his remarkable contribution to the field of literature, music, and art, Tagore was a legendary figure and a huge cultural icon. A supremely talented man, Rabindranath Tagore donned many hats as poet, writer, playwright, composer, philosopher, social reformer, educationist, linguist, and painter. He penned down Jana Gana Mana, the national anthem of India, and also wrote the national anthem for Bangladesh. During the program, we have a live quiz of 5 questions, and I request all of you to participate in it. We will give the prizes at the end of the program to all the winners. May I now invite Dr. Vinod Gaikwad, First Secretary Culture, for the welcome remarks.
Thank you, Misbah. Namaste and good morning to Excellencies, dignitaries, friends of India and Kuwait, our friends from media, members of Indian Culture Network, and members of Indian Readers Network, ladies and gentlemen, Suswagatam. It is my proud privilege and honor to welcome you all on behalf of Embassy of India in Kuwait to today's celebration of birth anniversary of Gurudev Rabindranath Tagore. A warm welcome to Ambassador of India to Kuwait, His Excellency Shri C.B. Josh Sir and Madam Joyce C.B. A very warm welcome to all Excellencies who have joined us today. A special welcome to all my media friends who have joined us and all the members of audience who have joined us here physically and on social media platforms of Embassy such as Twitter, Facebook, and YouTube. As you all know, we have gathered here to pay our tributes to Gurudev Rabindranath Tagore, who embodies whole culture in one name. He was the first Asian to win Nobel Prize who touched our lives in many ways. As a writer of some of the most evocative stories from Kabuliwala to Chokher Bali, as a songwriter of over 2,000 songs, as my colleague mentioned, he also wrote the national anthem of India and Bangladesh. As a nationalist, protesting strongly against Jallianwala Bagh massacre and the partition of Bengal, as an educationist who introduced some revolutionary concepts in his Vishwa Bharati University, as a poet, painter, and extraordinary artist. Let us begin our program with National Anthem of India, composed by Gurudev Rabindranath Tagore. I request everyone present here to rise for the National Anthem of India.
Thank you. In India, we have a custom of lighting the lamp at the start of any major event. Continuing with the tradition, may I now invite Ambassador of India to Kuwait, His Excellency Shri C.B. George and Madam Joyce C.B. to come to the stage for the lamp lighting ceremony and to pay floral tribute to the portrait of Rabindranath Tagore. Welcome, sir, and welcome, ma'am. Welcome to all the excellencies.
I request all excellencies to join us for the lamp lighting ceremony. This way, please. उनको लेके आना है। Lamp lighting ceremony. Excellencies, please join us for the lamp lighting ceremony.
Thank you very much, Your Excellencies. I request you to take your seats and I request Ambassador Sir to deliver his remarks.
Your Excellencies, ambassadors and madams who have joined us today, media representatives, esteemed guests from Kuwait and India, ladies and gentlemen, dear children, a very good morning to all of you and greetings on the occasion of the birth anniversary of Gurudev Rabindranath Tagore. I would like to begin my remarks by thanking His Highness Sheikh Nawaf Al-Ahmad Al-Jabr Al-Sabah, the Amir of the State of Kuwait, and His Highness Sheikh Mishal Al-Ahmad Al-Jabr Al-Sabah, the Crown Prince of the State of Kuwait, for hosting the large Indian community in Kuwait and for their leadership in strengthening the bilateral relations between our two friendly countries. I'm so happy to welcome Excellencies, our ambassadors who are present today, who have joined us today here when we remember and pay homage to one of the greatest sons of India, Gurudev Rabindranath Tagore. I also welcome representatives from the media, members of the community, and our dear children. Dear friends, today, cultural diplomacy has assumed greater importance as we seek to strengthen and reinforce people-to-people connect, transcending political boundaries and our other differences. India's culture and traditions go back to the dawn of time. It is distinguished by antiquity, continuity, refinement, diversity, and an ability to assimilate the best from outside without losing its own inherent character, authenticity, and civilizational ethos. It is this cultural engagement that we seek to achieve in Kuwait by holding regular events with the support and participation of our vibrant Indian community in Kuwait, and also with the participation of our many Kuwaiti friends. Despite the many challenges of COVID-19 pandemic, we have been celebrating in Kuwait Azadi Ka Amrit Mahotsav, 75th anniversary of India's independence, and also the 60th anniversary of establishment of diplomatic relations between India and Kuwait for almost a year now. We organized a series of cultural and business events in collaboration with various organizations and institutions in Kuwait since the launch of year-long celebrations in June last year during the visit of Honorable Minister of External Affairs of India, His Excellency Dr. S. Jaishankar. I am happy to note that despite the many constraints of COVID-19 pandemic, no week has passed without a grand celebration of India being held in Kuwait. I thank the many members of the Indian diaspora who joined hands with us to celebrate this important anniversary today. In coming weeks and months, we will continue our celebrations to mark the 75th anniversary of our independence and also with our efforts to continue to build an Atmanirbhar Bharat. Today, we are here to unveil the portrait of Gurudev Rabindranath Tagore, one of the greatest sons of India, and also to pay homage to him on his birth anniversary. In the words of Honorable Rashtrapati Ji, and I quote, Gurudev was a remarkable genius. He was a writer of renown. When he won the Nobel Prize for Literature in 1913, he became the first Asian Nobel laureate. However, he was more than just a writer. He was a musician, artist, educationist, and spiritual scholar of rare sensitivity. He is remembered every day as the poet who gave India its national anthem, and he remains one of our foremost cultural icons. When I say our, I don't mean just India, for Gurudev belongs to the world. He was a nationalist and an internationalist, a child of Ma Bharati and an advocate of Vishwa Bharati, unquote. As Honorable Rashtrapati Ji said, every time we sing our national anthem, we remember Gurudev Tagore. In fact, Gurudev penned the national anthem of both India and Bangladesh. I am very happy that Honorable Ambassador of Bangladesh, His Excellency, has joined us today at this event. Every major work of Tagore, his poems, songs, novels, short stories, and dramas were imbued with the dominating idea of transcending the narrow for a greater, all-embracing human and humane ideal. It was this realization that narrow, local, national, and regional differences are to be sublimated in the search for eternal values that led Gurudev to create Vishwa Bharati, the India of the world, or the universal India. In the process, he transformed himself from being Bengal's Kabi Guru to Vishwa Kabi, the poet of the world. Let me conclude by quoting Honorable Prime Minister Sri Narendra Modi ji, who had said about Gurudev Tagore earlier. I quote, I bow to Gurudev Rabindranath Tagore on his birth anniversary. His prose and poetry has influenced generations. He represents the best of modern and ancient Indian intellectual thought. Gurudev Tagore blended the wisdom of India's past with the promise of its future through his literature, art, and music. He taught us the power of free thinking while inspiring us to dream of a heaven of freedom where the mind is without fear and the head can be held high. We proudly remember Gurudev Tagore's immense contribution in the making of our nation. Unquote. Gurudev's eternal words of wisdom will continue to inspire generations to come, where the mind is without fear, the head is held high, where knowledge is free, where the world has not been broken up into fragments by narrow domestic walls, where words come out from the depths of truth, where tireless striving stretches its arms towards perfection. I can go on and on with his inspiring verses. Dear friends, with these words, I unveil the portrait of Gurudev Tagore today. I congratulate our artists and many children who are joining us today to perform on the stage and also for our reading session today. I also congratulate those who regularly participate in our weekly India quiz. I was so happy to see the overwhelming participation in the drawing painting competition held to mark Tagore Jayanti. Happy to recall that Gurudev himself was a painter. We look forward to felicitating our children and our artists later today during the program. I once again thank you all for joining us today to celebrate the birth anniversary of Gurudev Rabindranath Tagore. Thank you.
Thank you very much for your remarks, sir. We will now screen a documentary on Rabindranath Tagore on the occasion of Tagore Jayanti. Please sit back and enjoy.
In Birbhum district of West Bengal lies the town of Bolpur. Bolpur is better known to the world as Shanti Niketan, or the abode of peace. Shantiniketan houses the world-famous Vishwabharati University. At its core, Vishwabharati is an ashram in which the ancient Tapobanic style of learning prevails today. Maharshi Rabindranath Tagore, the father of Gurudev Rabindranath Tagore, started a Brahmo Vidyalaya and a library in 1888. In 1901, his son Gurudev Rabindranath Tagore founded the Brahmacharya Ashram in conformity with the example that his father had set. This Brahmacharya Ashram grew into the Patha Bhavan in 1924, where students learn out in the open among the mango trees.
So by being part of this natural ambience, I think Gurudev had in mind that the children will develop some kind of affinity, some kind of love for the nature or the ecology surrounding them. So I think it is basically heritage in the sense that Gurudev imbibed that spirit of Tapoban Shiksha and articulated that in the form of Patha Bhavan in 1924 and that has been continuing even today.
Carrying forward an ancient heritage from the Vedic days, the Upasana Griha was inaugurated in 1891 as a site of Brahmo worship. Also known as the Kach Mandir, the prayer hall is distinctive because of the empty space within, signifying the immanence of the all-pervading Brahman. Open to all, regardless of class, caste and creed, the Upasana Griha embodies Gurudev's desire for collectivity and his notion of universal humanism. Gurudev's desire to rise above the artificial segregation of humanity into arbitrary boxes was evident in his endeavor to allow non-Brahmins to act as the acharya or the conductor of regular prayers in the Upasana Griha. As an ashram, Vishwabharati functions as a bulwark against the crushing homogenization effected by modernity, which is why it deserves to be cherished and commemorated as heritage.
At this point of time, the university, Vishwabharati, is being projected as the heritage center. And as a result of that, we have identified, in collaboration with Archaeological Survey of India, and also in collaboration with the discussion by the experts, we have identified about 24 buildings which were made about 100 years ago. So this is basically a declaration of heritage center only of the ashram area. And as you know, ASI has made a distinction between core area and the buffer area. And the core area happens to be the ashram and the buffer area happens to be those which are outside the ashram area.
The ashram stands for selfless sacrifice to humanity, in keeping with the Upanishadic principle of Teno Tyaktena Vunjita, which inspired Maharshi Rabindranath Tagore to give up his worldly possessions for the subtle and encompassing bliss of a spiritual journey. Vishwabharati stems from an Upanishadic base but grows towards a transcultural future, which is encapsulated best by its motto, Yatra Vishwam Bhavati Ekanidam, which means where the whole world meets in a single nest. Vishwabharati acknowledges India's obligation to offer to others the hospitality of her best culture and India's right to accept from others their best. As a site for the confluence of Eastern and Western discourses in areas as diverse as academic learning, crafts, the fine arts and language, Vishwabharati truly epitomizes another Upanishadic dictum, Vasudhaiva Kutumbakam, the world is a family. The Bhakti tradition finds a place in a fresco in Patha Bhavan, painted by one of the doyens of Bengal art school, Nandalal Bose, that depicts the birth of the 15th century saint Chaitanya Mahaprabhu.
Vishwabharati stands out in terms of this kind of distinction, and it's a rare distinction in the sense that you will not find so many frescoes anywhere in the world. I mean, so far as my knowledge goes, we have got 11 frescoes, and there are some which are bigger, there are some which are smaller. And the fresco, the purpose of fresco is nothing but narration of a story. And Gurudev believed that, if you just tell the students a story from a book, probably the children may not be able to understand the theme or the way the story develops. So Tagore preferred the painting of the narration, and one of the ways of doing things is to develop a fresco.
Vishwabharati creatively builds upon the foundational ideals and prescribed conduct that it has inherited from the past, while also ensuring that Gurudev Rabindranath Tagore and his forebears' vision is upheld to the last. In this sense, the heritage that the seat of learning and its ancillary bodies represent is not an homage to an ossified modus vivendi. It is, in fact, an acknowledgement of the continuity of a living and breathing tradition of intellectual, spiritual, and artistic accomplishment. The existence of Shantiniketan and Vishwabharati is revolutionary. It is important to remember that Shantiniketan was envisioned by Maharshi and Gurudev as a social, political, religious, cultural, and pedagogical alternative to existing forms of life in their respective contexts.
Government of India, especially our Chancellor, the Honorable Prime Minister of the country, Sri Narendra Modi ji, our Education Minister, Honorable Sri Dharmendra Pradhan ji, our Culture Minister, they are all taking personal interest simply because Vishwabharati doesn't belong to Bengal. Vishwabharati doesn't belong to India. It belongs to the globe. Because Tagore and Tagore's forefathers, Mahorshi Rabindranath Tagore, Prince Dwarkanath Tagore, and all the entire Brahma Samaj clan, they were not in favor of individual happiness. They were in favor of universal humanism. So that's why you'll find there is no distinction in terms of caste, creed, and color, and also the religious differences, which sometimes became critical insofar as Indian history is concerned. It was Tagore who constantly fought against that kind of artificial division.
Shantiniketan has retained its revolutionary character over the decades, and it is a testament to the power of its founding ideals that it withstands and indeed welcomes creative interpretations of Gurudev's legacy and vision. History is the chronicling of change, and so heritage is never static. Making the campus a heritage site will not freeze it in time. It will instead reaffirm the dynamic, living character of Shantiniketan and Vishwabharati.
Once Vishwabharati becomes part of global heritage, it will not just become the structure which is important. I'm not talking about the structure which was built 100 years ago. I am also insisting at the same time on the philosophy. And the philosophy is that Tena Taktena Bhunjita, Atra Visham Bhavatika Nedam, and Vasudhaiva Kutumbakam. These are three important dictums which we derive from Upanishad, which talk about universal humanism. So I think to the global listeners, and also to those who are listening to this particular program, my message is that by making Vishwabharati heritage, we are actually contributing to global humanity.
you very much. Now, let me start with the first question of today's quiz. Please raise your hand if you know the answer and please do not give the answers aloud. I now ask the first question. It is a very easy question. Which university was founded by Rabindranath Tagore? Yes, please. Yes, that's the right answer. Vishwa Bharati University. Congratulations. Please give her a huge round of applause. Please approach our technical team there and give your name, please. Moving ahead, we now have a reading session by the members of Indian Readers Network. And may I now invite Madam Smita Patil, First Secretary, Political and Commerce, to introduce IRN and also about today's book reading session. Welcome, ma'am.
Good morning to all of you, Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen. It is my proud privilege to once again welcome you all, this time on behalf of the Indian Readers Network. This is an innovative vision under the leadership of our Ambassador, His Excellency Shri C.B. George, to bring together all the readers of India and Indian literature here in Kuwait on one platform. And as you can see, a lot of our young readers have joined us today. They have also participated in various competitions that we have held before this program. So it is only apt that we are celebrating the 161st birth anniversary of one of most illustrious sons of India, Gurudev Rabindranath Tagore, today with IRN. Known as one of the best known polymaths of India all over the world, he was truly a Renaissance man. If you have listened carefully, it was mentioned earlier that he was truly a lover of arts, words in all their forms, and he shared that beauty with the world generously. In all languages, he built bridges between the East and the West. He traveled all over the world, and the presence of so many of our excellencies here today is witness to that fact, and we are indeed grateful for that. As someone who dabbled in prose and poetry with equal ease, his words were playful at the same time profound. We have a large body of work left behind by him, and we will have a glimpse of it through some reading experts that our members of Indian Readers Network will be sharing with you. I think it's my proud privilege to share with you, to begin with, one of his poems, which is, as an ardent nature lover that he was, delights and inspires me. The title is Flower. The poem is simple, but at the same time, it has a deep spiritual meaning. Flower by Rabindranath Tagore. Pluck this little flower and take it, delay not. I fear, lest it droop and drop into the dust. I may not find a place in thy garland, but honor it with a touch of pain from thy hand and pluck it. I fear, lest the day end before I am aware, and the time of offering go by. Though its color be not deep, and its smell be faint, use this flower in thy service and pluck it while there is still time. Rabindranath Tagore. Thank you.
Thank you very much, ma'am. I would like to now invite one by one to all the readers onto the stage, and I'm sure you will enjoy the session. I would first invite Ms. Chetali Roy to the stage for the reading session.
Namaskar. Thank you very much, Ambassador of India, Mr. C.B. George, His Excellency C.B. George, the Embassy of India, and may I here express my heartfelt gratitude, sir. Never before have I seen, in my so many years in Kuwait, as a media person, such a celebration of one of India's greatest sons, the subcontinent's greatest son. So thank you very much for that. And since we were talking about universal humanism and the Renaissance man that he was, I mean, words, a lot of my friends here are Indians, but I do want to mention this, that in homes, in Bengali homes, in our puja ghar, you know, where we pray, we have, most of our puja ghars in Bengal have a portrait of Tagore. So he is revered as almost as a divine figure. So I do want to, sir, ask your permission to share an incident which happened to me 2 days back, which I think has a lot of relevance to what's happening today. So may I go on? So I was in Serbia for a very short holiday, and I happened to land in Kuwait today, early in the morning, and I had to come to this program because it was so special and so close to my heart. Now, 2 days back, fag end of the tour, I was in a city called Novi Sad, which is the second largest city of Serbia, and I'd gone there with my family. Now, we had just parked the car in one of the city centers, and my son happened to get out of the car, and there was this 80-plus old lady who suddenly was watching us. I think she saw us, we were parking the car, and as soon as she saw my son get down, she approached him and she asked, what is your name, young man? She had a trolley bag which she was carrying behind her, very beautiful old woman with a beautiful smile. And then he said, my name is Krishna. And as soon as he said that, she said, wow, you have such a beautiful name. And she was speaking good English. And then she said, where are you from? And he said, I'm from India. I am, where in India? And he said, Calcutta. And the minute he said Calcutta, her kind of eyes, she grew teary-eyed, and she started speaking in Bengali. And she mentioned that she had been, she spoke about Tagore. And she mentioned that she had been to Jorashako, which is where he was born, and how she had spent months in Shantiniketan learning about his art and learning about his poetry. And she spoke about his humanism, about the global nature of his writings and his paintings. And we were like floored. I said, wow. I mean, never expected that in a town in Serbia, we would meet this lady. Her name is, later I found out, Marlene Feher, whose husband was the former ambassador of Yugoslavia in Dhaka, sir. And she had an amazing painting exhibition in Dhaka, attended by the Vice President of Bangladesh. And there she was, talking about Jorashako, talking about Tagore. And that makes it so poignant today that I'm here about to read a short story by him. And there was this old woman in Serbia who mentioned him, you know, and that made it poignant, relevant, and it shows that how deep-reaching his influence is. And he was truly a global, just not an Indian or just not a Bengali, but he was truly global in his output and his creative reach. So thank you very much, sir. I'm going to read a short story. Please bear with me. It's called The Postmaster. It's one of my favorites. And another great son of India and Bengal, Satyajit Ray, made a film out of this short story. If you get an opportunity, watch it. You will like it. So this story is set at a time before independence, when there were postmasters and post offices all through India. I think a lot of my young friends won't even know what a post office is, right? But there was a time when we used to write letters. There was a time when we had the mail system, not the email system. So this is about that time in pre-independent India, and it's about a postmaster. For his first job, the postmaster came to the village of Ulapur. It was a very humble village. There was an indigo factory nearby, and the British manager had, with much effort, established a new post office. The postmaster was a Calcutta boy. He was a fish out of water in a village like this. His office was in a dark, thatched hut. There was a pond next to it, scummed over with weeds and jungle all around. The Indigo agents and employees had hardly any spare time and were not suitable company for an educated man. Or rather, his Calcutta background made him a bad mixer. In an unfamiliar place, he was either arrogant or ill at ease. So there was not much contact between him and the residents in the area. But the postmaster had very little work to do. Sometimes he tried to write poems. The bliss of spending one's life watching the leaves trembling in the trees or the clouds in the sky, that was what the poems expressed. God knew, however, that if a genie out of an Arab tale had come and cut down all the leafy trees overnight, made a road and blocked out the sky with rows of tall buildings, this half-dead, well-bred young man would have come alive again. The postmaster's salary was meager. He had to cook for himself, and an orphan village girl did housework for him in return for a little food. And this is the relationship which the poet author talks about in great detail in this story. This little orphan village girl's name was Ratan, and she was about 12 or 13. It seemed unlikely that she would get married. In the evenings, when smoke curled up from the village cowsheds, crickets grated in the bushes, a band of intoxicated bowl singers in a far village sang raucously to drums and cymbals, and even a poet, if seated alone on a dark veranda, might have shuddered a little at the trembling leaves. The postmaster would go inside, light a dim lamp in the corner of a room, and call for Ratan. Ratan would be waiting at the door for this, but she did not come at the first call. She would call back, "What is it, Dada Babu? What do you want?" "What are you doing?" the postmaster would say. "I must go and light the kitchen fire. You can do your kitchen work later. Get my hookah ready for me." Soon Ratan came in, puffing out her cheeks as she blew on the bowl of the hookah. Taking it from her, the postmaster would say abruptly, "So Ratan, do you remember your mother?" She had lots to tell him. Some things she remembered, others she did not. Her father loved her more than her mother did. She remembered him a little. He used to come home in the evenings after working hard all day, and on one or two evenings were clearly etched in her memory. As she talked, Ratan edged nearer to the postmaster and would end up sitting on the ground at his feet. She remembered her little brother. One distant day during the rainy season, they had stood on the edge of a small pond and played at catching fish with sticks broken off trees. This memory was far more vividly fixed in her mind than many more important things. Sometimes these conversations went on late into the night, and the postmaster then felt too sleepy to cook. There would be some vegetable curry left from midday, and Ratan would quickly light the fire and cook some chapati. They made their supper out of that. Occasionally, sitting on a low wooden office stool in the corner of his large hut, the postmaster would speak of his family, his younger brother, mother, and elder sister, all those for him his heart ached, alone and exiled as he was. He told this illiterate young girl things which were often in his mind, but which he would never have dreamt of divulging to the Indigo employees. And it seemed quite natural to do so. Eventually, Ratan referred to the postmaster's family, his mother, sister, brother, as if they were her own. She even formed affectionate, imaginary pictures of them in her mind. It was a fine afternoon in the rainy season. The breeze was softly warm. There was a smell of sunshine on wet grass and leaves. Earth's breath, hot with fatigue, seemed to brush against the skin. A persistent bird cried out monotonously somewhere, making repeated and pathetic appeals at nature's midday darbar. The postmaster had hardly any work. Truly, the only things to look at were the smooth, shiny, rain-washed leaves quivering, the layers of sun-whitened, broken-up clouds left over from the rain. He watched and felt how it would be to have a close companion here, a human object with the heart's most infinite affections. Gradually, it seemed that the birds were saying precisely this again and again, that in the afternoon shade and solitude, the same meaning was in the rustle of the leaves. Few would believe or imagine that a poorly paid sub-postmaster in a small village could have such feelings in the deep, idle stillness of the afternoon. Sighing heavily, the postmaster called for Ratan. Ratan was at that moment stretched out under a guava tree eating unripe guavas. At the sound of her master's call, she got up at once and ran to him. "Yes, Dada Babu, you called?" she said breathlessly. "I am going to teach you to read a little bit each day," said the postmaster. He taught her daily at midday from then on, starting with the vowels but quickly progressing to the consonants and conjuncts. During the month of Strabon, the rain was continuous. Ditches, pits, and channels filled to overflowing with water. The croaking of frogs and the patter of rain went on day and night. It was virtually impossible to get about on foot. One had to go to the market by boat. One day it rained torrentially from dawn. The postmaster's student waited for a long time at the door, but when the usual call failed to come, she quietly entered the room with her bundle of books. She saw the postmaster lying on his bed. Thinking that he was resting, she began to tiptoe out again. Suddenly she heard him call her. She turned around and quickly went up to him and said, "Weren't you sleeping, Dada Babu?" "I don't feel well," said the postmaster painfully. "Have a look, feel my forehead." He felt in need of comfort, ill and miserable as he was in this isolated place, the rain pouring down. He remembered the touch on his forehead of soft hands, conch shell bangles. He wished his mother or sister were sitting there next to him, soothing his illness and loneliness with feminine tenderness. And his longings did not stay unfulfilled. The young girl Ratan was a young girl no longer. From that moment on, she took on the role of a mother, calling the doctor, giving him pills at the right time, staying awake at his bedside all night long, cooking him convalescent meals, and saying 100 times, "Are you feeling a little better, Dada Babu?" Many days later, the postmaster got up from his bed, thin and weak. He had decided that enough was enough. Somehow he would have to leave. He wrote at once to his head office in Calcutta, applying for a transfer because of the unhealthiness of the place. Released from nursing the postmaster, Ratan once again took up a normal place outside his door. But his call did not come for her as before. Sometimes she would peep in and see the postmaster sitting distractedly on his stool or lying on his bed. While she sat expecting his summons, he was anxiously awaiting a reply to his application. She sat outside the door going over her old lessons numerous times. She was terrified that if he suddenly summoned her again one day, the conjunct consonants would all be muddled up in her mind. Eventually, after several weeks, his call came again one evening. With eager heart, Ratan rushed into the room. "Did you call Dada Babu?" she asked. "I am leaving tomorrow, Ratan," said the postmaster. "Where are you going, Dada Babu?" "I'm going home." "When are you coming back?" "I shan't come back again." Ratan did not question him further. The postmaster himself told her that he had applied for a transfer, but his application had been rejected. So he was resigning from his post and returning home. For several minutes, neither of them spoke. The lamp flickered weakly. Through a hole in the crumbling thatched roof, rain water steadily dripped onto an earthenware dish. Ratan then went slowly out to the kitchen to make some chapatis. She made them with none of her usual energy. No doubt her thoughts distracted her. When the postmaster had had his meal, she suddenly asked, "Dada Babu, will you take me home with you?" "How could I do that?" said the postmaster, laughing. He saw no need to explain to the girl why the idea was impossible. All night long, whether dreaming or awake, Ratan felt the postmaster's laugh ringing in her ears. How could I do that? When he rose at dawn, the postmaster saw that his bath water had been put out ready for him. He bathed according to Calcutta habit in a water brought in a bucket. Ratan had not been able to bring herself to ask him what time he would be leaving. She had carried the bath water up from the river late at night in case he needed it early in the morning. As soon as he finished his bath, the postmaster called her. She entered the room softly and looked at him once while speaking, ready for her orders. "Ratan," he said, "I will tell the man who replaces me that he should look after you as I have. You mustn't worry just because I'm going." No doubt this remark was inspired by kind and generous feelings, but who can fathom the feelings of a woman? Ratan had meekly suffered many scoldings from her master, but these kindly words were more than she could bear. The passion in her heart exploded and she cried, No, you mustn't say anything to anyone. I don't want to stay here." The postmaster was taken aback. He had never seen Ratan behave like that before. A new postmaster came. After handing over his charge to him, the resigning postmaster got ready to leave. Before going, he called Ratan and said, "Ratan, I've never been able to pay you anything. Today, before I go, I want to give you something to last you for a few days." Except for the little that he needed for the journey, he took out all the salary that was in his pocket. But the Ratan sank to the ground and clung to his feet, saying, "I beg you, Dada Babu, I beg you, don't give me any money. Please, no one need bother about me." Then she fled, running. The departing postmaster sighed, picked up his carpet bag, put his umbrella over his shoulder, and with the coolie carrying his blue and white striped tin trunk on his head, slowly made his way towards the boat. When he was on the boat and it had set sail, when the swollen floodwaters of the river started to heave like the earth's brimming tears, the postmaster felt a huge anguish. The image of a simple young village girl's grief-stricken face seemed to speak a great, inarticulate, universal sorrow. He felt a sharp desire to go back. Should he not fetch that orphaned girl whom the world had abandoned? But the wind was filling the sails by then, the swollen river was flowing fiercely. The village had been left behind. The riverside burning ground was in view. Detached by the current of the river, he reflected philosophically that in life there are many separations, many deaths. What point was there in going back? Who belonged to whom in this world? But Ratan had no such philosophy to console her. All she could do was wander near the post office weeping copiously. Maybe a faint hope lingered in her mind that Dada Babu might return, and this was enough to tie her to the spot, prevent her from going afar. Oh, poor, unthinking human heart, error will not go away. Logic and reason are slow to penetrate. We cling with both arms to false hopes, refusing to believe the weightiest proof against it, embracing it with all our strength. In the end, it escapes, ripping our veins and draining our heart's blood, until regaining consciousness, we rush to fall into snares of delusions all over again. By Tagore. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Ms. Chaitali. I now invite our second reader for today, Ms. Aisha Kamaluddin. Please take the stage.
Good morning, one and all. Rabindranath Tagore wrote over 90 short stories during his long and abundant literary career. It would be possible, though not very satisfactory, to make one volume selection from the full range of his stories, but a selection of those written during in 1980s is indicated not only by the need to limit numbers. Tagore, who was specially committed to the short story during this decade, and 59 stories belong to it. From 1891 to 1895, he wrote 44, almost one a month. In 1896, 97, and again in 1899. He stopped writing short stories as such, but his interest in storytelling was sustained in the narrative and dramatic poems that made up his books Katha, Tales, and Kahini stories published in 1900s. If we count these in with the prose stories, we arrive at over 80 narratives in prose or verse, an astonishing flow that only waned when Tagore's interest shifted to the psychological novella. Kokar Bali, Speck in the Eye, and Nastanir, The Broken Nest, appeared simultaneously in serial form in 1901. With their greater length, narrower time scale, and emphasis on detailed analysis of emotion rather than factual life history, they mark a break with the short stories that precede them. The stories that Tagore produced and at intervals over the rest of his career are related to his novellas and novels, rather than to his earlier stories. For this and for several other reasons, the stories from which I have made the present selection from a group. Why did Tagore, always primarily a lyric poet, write so many short stories at this time? The simplest answer is that the periodicals with which he was associated and the readerships for those periodicals demanded them. Most 19th century Bengali literature reached its readers initially in the pages of periodicals. The leading literary found of 1870s and 1880s, Bankim Chandra Chatterjee, 1838-94, established new artistic, intellectual and typographical standards in his journal Bangadarshan, serializing many of his own novels in it. And Tagore recalled in My Reminiscences, 1917, the feverish excitement with which each monthly issue was awaited. His own first attempt at prose fiction, such as Bhikarini, The Beggar Girl, 1877, or the historical romance Rajarsi, The Royal Sage, 1887, were published in periodicals, and he was fortunate as he strove to establish himself as a writer. To live at a time in which Calcutta's literary magazine culture was reaching its zenith. The periodicals to which he contributed so extensively were packed with ideas, debate, reviews, and counter-reviews, as well as the latest poetry and fiction. Writers and editors were nearly alive to literary developments abroad. And as the taste for short stories developed in America, Britain, and Europe, so it did in Bengal. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Ms. Aisha Kamaluddin. Moving ahead, I now ask the second question of today's quiz. I repeat, please raise your hand if you know the answer. The second question is, in which year was Rabindranath Tagore awarded Nobel Prize? A gentleman in white shirt, gray shirt. Yes, please. Please give the answer. Yes, that's the right answer. 1913. Please give him a huge round of applause. May I know your name, please? Sorry? Mr. Balasubramaniam. Congratulations. Thank you. Now, I call upon our third reader for today, Master Tevin Joe Thomas.
A very good morning to one and all. Today I will be reciting a poem from Geetanjali, verses 48, The Morning Sea of Silence. The morning sea of silence broke into ripples of bird songs, and the flowers were all merry by the roadside, and the wealth of gold was scattered through the rift of clouds, while we busily went on our way and paid no heed. We sang no glad songs nor played. We went not to the village for barter. We spoke not a word nor smiled. We lingered not on the way. We quickened our pace more and more as the time sped by. The sun rose to the mid-sky, and doves cooed in the shade. Withered leaves danced and whirled in the hot air of noon. The shepherd boy drowsed and dreamed in the shadow of the banyan tree. And I laid myself down by the water and stretched my tired limbs on the grass. My companions laughed at me in scorn. They held their heads high and hurried on. They never looked back nor rested. They vanished in the blue haze. They crossed many meadows and hills and passed through strange, faraway countries. All honor to you, heroic host of the interminable path. Mockery and reproach picked me to rise, but found no response in me. I gave myself up, for lost in the depth of a glad humiliation. In the shadow of a dim delight, the repose of the sun-embroidered green gloom slowly spread over my heart. I forgot for what I had travelled, and I surrendered my mind without struggle to the maze of shadows and songs. At last, when I woke from my slumber and opened my eyes, I saw thee at last. When I woke up from my slumber and opened my eyes, I saw thee standing by me, flooding my sleep with thy smile. How I had feared that the path was long and wearisome, and the struggle to reach thee was hard. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Master Tevin. Now I call upon our last reader for today, Miss Anne Teresa Tawny. Please take the stage.
Good morning. Today I'm going to recite the poem Paper Boats, written by Rabindranath Tagore. Day by day I flowed my paper boats one by one down the running stream. In big black letters I write my name on them and the name of the village where I live. I hope that someone in some strange land will find them and know who I am. I load my little boats with sheer flowers from my garden and hope that these blooms of the dawn will be carried safely to land in the night. I launch my paper boats and look up into the sky and see the little clouds setting their white bulging sails. I know not what playmate of mine in the sky sends them down the air to race with my boats. When night comes, I bury my face in my arms and dream that my paper boats float on and on under the midnight stars. The fairies of sleep are sailing in them, and the lading is their baskets full of dreams. Thank you.
Thank you, Miss Anne. I thank all the readers for the wonderful reading session. Now let us watch a video of Rabindranath Tagore and commemorate his artistic brilliance which has endured through the generations. Please sit back and enjoy.
যদি তোর ডাক শুনে কেউ না আসে তবে একলা চলো রে যদি তোর ডাক শুনে কেউ না আসে তবে একলা চলো রে তবে একলা চলো একলা চলো একলা চলো একলা চলো রে তবে একলা চলো একলা চলো একলা চলো একলা চলো রে যদি তোর ডাক শুনে কেউ না আসে তবে একলা চলো রে
Thank you. Without further delay, let us now begin our cultural performances for today. Before that, let me ask you the third question for today's live quiz. In which field did Rabindranath Tagore win Nobel Prize? Gentleman in black shirt, please. Literature, that's the right answer. Please give him a huge round of applause. May I know your name, please? Mr. Dheeraj, congratulations. Moving to our first performance for today, and this is a performance presented by Nitranjali Dance Studio, who are going to perform on songs composed by Rabindranath Tagore. These songs include a myriad of expressions to describe the beauty of a woman from the beholder's eye and the beauty of nature from the poet's eye. Let us witness this unique performance choreographed by Ms. Maunayogi. Please welcome them.
চক্ষু না চায় মরিয়ে কি তোর দুস্তর লজ্জা প্রাণ চায় চক্ষু না চায় সুন্দর এসে ফিরে যায় তবে কার লাগি মিথায় সজ্জা প্রাণ চায় চক্ষু না চায় মরিয়ে কি তোর দুস্তর লজ্জা প্রাণ চায় চক্ষু না চায়
মোর ভাবনা রে কি হাওয়ায় মাতালো দোলে মন দোলে অকারণ হরষে মোর ভাবনা রে কি হাওয়ায় মাতালো দোলে মন দোলে অকারণ হরষে হৃদয় গগনে সজল ঘন নবীন মেঘে রসের ধারা বরসে মোর ভাবনা রে কি হাওয়ায় মাতালো দোলে মন দোলে অকারণ হরষে জাগরণে যাইবি ভাবরি আখি হতে ঘুম নীল হরি কে নীল হরি মরি মরি জাগরণে যাইবি ভাবরি আখি পিপাসিত নাহি দেখা তারি
Such an amazing performance. Thank you so much, Nitranjali Dance Studio. The next performance is on the beautiful song of Rabindranath Tagore, Esho Shamalo Sundaro, and patriotic mashup with rhythm of ghungaroos in Kathak dance frame. These participants are from the Graceful Moves, powered by Satyug Darshan Sangeet Kala Kendra, and it is choreographed by Miss Renu Grover. Let us welcome these beautiful Kathak girls with their graceful moves.
এসো শ্যামল সুন্দর, এসো শ্যামল সুন্দর, অনতম তাপহরা তৃষাহরা সঙ্গ সুধা, বিরোহিণী চাহিয়া আছে আকাশে শ্যামল সুন্দর, এসো শ্যামল সুন্দর। সে যে ব্যথিত হৃদয় আছে বিছাই, তমাল পুঞ্জ পথে সজল ছায়াতে, নয়নে জাগিছে করুণ রাগিনী শ্যামল সুন্দর, এসো শ্যামল সুন্দর।
एहसास थोड़ा तो जगाए अपने दिलों में हम, सिंदूरी गालों वाला सूरज जो करे ठिठोली, क्या नाम है अपना जहां में खड़े हैं कहाँ पे हम, शर्मीले खेतों को ढकने चूनर पीली पीली, घूंघट में रंग पतझट में रंग चम चम चमकीला, वंदे मातरम, वंदे मातरम, वंदे मातरम, वंदे मातरम। सारे जहां के अच्छा दोस्ता हमारा, हमारा सारे जहां से अच्छा।
किसी दिलवाली ने, किसी मतवाली ने हमें खत लिखा है, ये हमसे पूछा है।
एहसास थोड़ा तो जगाए अपने दिलों में, क्या नाम है अपना जहां में खड़े हैं कहाँ पे हम, हमें जाना कहाँ चले भी कहाँ पे, हमसे पूछे यही माफी कठिन, अबीर गुलाल से चेहरे हैं यहाँ, मुस्कानों की डोरी, रंग हंसी में रंग खुशी में रिश्ते जैसे होली, बालों में रंग यादों में रंग, रंग रंग रंगीला, देश रंगीला रंगीला, देश मेरा रंगीला, देश रंगीला रंगीला, देश मेरा रंगीला।
Such a colorful and lovely performance. Thank you so much, girls. Now we move to our fourth question of today's live quiz. In which year Did Rabindranath Tagore surrender the knighthood as a protest against Jallianwala Bagh massacre? Yes, please. Girl in the black top. Yes, please. That's the right answer. Congratulations. May I know your name? Shifana. Miss Shifana. Congratulations. Thank you. We will now screen a video of Akla Chalo Re song played by Indian Armed Forces. Thank you. We next have Master Rohit and Dr. Susovna to sing one of the iconic songs of Rabindranath Tagore, Akla Chalo Re, as you have just seen. Please welcome them to mesmerize us with a beautiful song.
Check, check. Hello, check. যদি তোর ডাক শুনে কেউ না আসে তবে একলা চলো রে যদি তোর ডাক শুনে কেউ না আসে তবে একলা চলো রে তবে একলা চলো একলা চলো একলা চলো একলা চলো রে তবে একলা চলো একলা চলো একলা চলো একলা চলো রে যদি তোর ডাক শুনে কেউ না আসে তবে একলা চলো রে যদি কেউ কথা না কয় ওরে ওরে ও বাবা কেউ কথা না কয় যদি সবাই থাকে মুখ ফেরায় সবাই করে বই যদি সবাই থাকে মুখ ফেরায় সবাই করে বই তবে পরাণ খুলে ও তুই মুখ ফুটে তোর মনের কথা একলা বলো রে ও তুই মুখ ফুটে তোর মনের কথা একলা বলো রে যদি তোর ডাক শুনে কেউ না আসে তবে একলা চলো রে যদি সবাই ফিরে যায় ওরে ওরে ও বাবা সবাই ফিরে যায় যদি গহন পথে যাবার কালে কেউ ফিরে না চায় যদি গহন পথে যাবার কালে কেউ ফিরে না চায় কবি পথের কাটা ও তুই রক্ত মাখা চরণ তলে একলা দলরে ও তুই রক্ত মাখা চরণ তলে একলা দলরে যদি তোর ডাক শুনে কেউ না আসে তবে একলা চলো রে যদি আলো না ঘরে ওরে ওরে ও আভাগা আলো না ঘরে যদি দর বদলে আধার রাতে দুয়ার না ঘরে যদি ঝড় বদলে আধার রাতে দুয়ার দে ঘরে তবে বজ্র নলে আপন বুকের পাঁজর জ্বালিয়ে নিয়ে একলা জলরে আপন বুকের পাঁজর জ্বালিয়ে নিয়ে একলা জলরে যদি তোর ডাক শুনে কেউ না আসে তবে একলা চলো রে থ্যাংক ইউ সো মাচ থ্যাংক ইউ
Thank you so much for the melodious song. Our next performance is on Rabindranath. This style blends select elements from various Indian classical dance forms like Bharatanatyam, Kathakali, and Mohiniyattam, and results in a unique style of dance. It is a combination of spectacular facial expressions, sophisticated postures, and technique. This performance is done by Tanima Dance Academy, choreographed by Ms. Tanima Dasgupta. I request the team to take the stage.
सजनी सजनी राधिकालो देख अब हो चाहिया सजनी सजनी राधिकालो देख अब हो चाहिया मृदुल गमन श्याम आवे मृदुल गान गाहिया सजनी सजनी राधिकालो देख अब हो चाहिया
सजनी सजनी राधिकालो
सनी 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 धप मगमा
देख अब हो चाहिया
धप ध धप मगरे गरे
मृदुल गमन श्याम आवे
निस सारी रे ग गम म प
मृदुल गान गाहिया सजनी सजनी राधिकालो देख अब हो चाहिया मृदुल गमन श्याम आवे मृदुल गान गाहिया
যে মন মোর দিল আকুলি সে যে মন মোর দিল আকুলি জল ভেজাতে তোকির দূর সুবাসে মোর ভাবনারে কি হাওয়ায় মাতালো দোলে মন দোলে অকারণ হরষে মোর ভাবনারে কি হাওয়া
কঙ্কন বাজিবে কিঙ্কিনি ঝঙ্কারিবে মঞ্জির রুন রুন
শ্যামল সুন্দর এসো শ্যামল সুন্দর আনো তব তাপহারা তৃষাহারা সঙ্গ সুধা বিরোহিণী চাহিয়া আছে আকাশে শ্যামল সুন্দর এসো শ্যামল সুন্দর
এসো হে বৈশাখ এসো 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 হে বৈশাখ এসো এসো তাপসী শোভায় মুমুর সুরে দাওড়ায় বৎসরের আবর্জনা দূর হয়ে যাক 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 এসো 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 হে বৈশাখ এসো 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 হে বৈশাখ এসো এসো
Thank you so much for the wonderful performance. Thank you. We now move to our last question of today's live quiz. Rabindranath Tagore was the editor of which magazine? Please raise your hand if you know the answer. Yes, please. Bangladesh, that is the right answer. Congratulations. May I know your name? Miss Priya. Miss Priya, yes. Shri Priya. Thank you. The next performance is Sambalpuri folk dance performed by Kuwait Odisha Association and choreographed by Miss Lipa Sahu. Sambalpuri dance is a folkloric dance form owes its origin to the western part of Odisha, especially to the Sambalpur district. This folk dance is performed during festivals and it is a popular dance style of western Odisha. Please welcome them with a huge round of applause. Thank you so much for such a charming performance. We now come to the last performance of today's cultural event. And our last performance is by the Dancing Divas, bringing the fragrance of West Bengal and the Northeast with a folk performance on the foot tapping songs. They will perform a folk dance of West Bengal, Bihu, and the flute song. Enjoy the journey of the West Bengal and Northeast with the energetic performance by the students of the Dancing Divas, choreographed by Ms. Jyoti Patel. Please welcome them.
চলে রে পিছন পানে চায়না রে মন দুপুক দুপুক করে রে তর লাগিও তলারে শালপিয়ালির বন্থিকা ওই জংলা নদীর পারে হেতে তর সঙ্গ লই ঘুরঘুর করুম এই বাসনা প্রাণে ময়না ছলাক ছলাক ময়না ছলাক ছলাক চলে রে পিছন পানে চায়না রে মন দুপুক দুপুক করে রে তর লাগিও তলারে শালপিয়ালির বন্থিকা ওই জংলা নদীর পারে হেতে তর সঙ্গ লই ঘুরঘুর করুম এই বাসনা প্রাণে ময়না ছলাক ছলাক
জন্মনি তুমিয়ে মোর কামনা বাসনা তুমিয়ে মোর জীবনৰ ভৰসা তুমিয়ে মোর বুকুৰে কৰি
ঝিলমিলিয়ে যায় ও মোর মন হারিয়ে
Amazing performance. Thank you so much, Dancing Divas. To mark Tagore Jayanti, Embassy of India has conducted a sketching and drawing competition of Gurudev Rabindranath Tagore. The best entries will be felicitated today. And also to mark the 75th anniversary of India's independence, Embassy has been organizing India Weekly Online Quiz every Thursday at 7 p.m. We have the winners of the online quiz and also for today's live quiz. So all these winners will be felicitated now. And may I now request Ambassador of India to Kuwait, His Excellency Shri Sibi George and Madam Joyce Sibi to come onto the stage and felicitate these winners. Welcome, sir and madam. I request the winners to come to the stage as I call out their names one by one. Please come from my right and you can leave from this side, left. First, I call upon the winners of sketching and drawing competition. The first winner, Arudra Ashok. Arya Rajiv. Ahana Suresh. Alfie Kurian. Alpa Jatin Kumar. Alvin Francis. Anfal. And Tressa. Anushka Datta. Ardra. Bhagyashri Chakrabarti. Chessa Mary. Delila D'Souza. Devapriya. Ivan Bijo. Fabia Ben. Harini Mahadevan. Harishwar. Hasina Mircha. Jaishi. Jitin Jason. Jyotisha Jairaj. Joanne Koshi. Jubal Saji. Kezia. Malavika Vinod. Moona Abdul. Namish Bangera. Neha. Nisreen Zaveri. Pujita. Rahil Rajesh. Reshmi. Rudradas. Sharda Sujit. Siddharth Manoj. Sneha. Tanush. Tarini. Vaibhav Nimesh. Vaiga Nimesh. Yashita Rajkumar. I now call upon the winners of India Weekly Online Quiz. Ahana. Arudra. Please give them the huge round of applause. Congratulations to all the winners. Anushika, Asha Mary, Balashiva, Dheeraj Chabra, Harsha, Herwin, Ishani, Jignesh Shah, Joshi Joseph, Kamal Radha Krishnan, Madhurima Basu, Matthew George, Meenakshi Prabesh, Mohini Vimala, Neha Lohia, Rajeshwari Chetan, Reggie, Roshan, Rutvi Tripathi, Sai Harshita Adivi, Sai Ishan Adivi, Shifa Muhammad, Shifana Shahjahan, Srinivas, Shri Lakshmi Prabesh, Shri Priya Jaypal, Dhanshik, Varsha Sharma, Viral Kumar Patel, Congratulations to the winners of online quiz. I request everyone to participate every Thursday 7 p.m. online Indian quiz. Next, Mr. Jim Cherian Jacob. Nanma Mary Vinod, Raina Lisa Christie, Ranjita Susan Avinash, Saramma Jason V, Sini John, Sudha Matthew. Next, I call upon the winners of today's live quiz. Our 5 winners of today's live quiz. Miss Rekha, Mr. Balasubramaniam, Mr. Dheeraj, Miss Shafana, and Miss Shri Priya. Another winner of our live quiz, Miss Purvika. Congratulations to all the winners. I also call upon Dugi Shanmukh Vihar, winner of sketching and drawing competition, and Saju Thomas Stephen, winner of India Weekly Online Quiz. And Joanne Koshi John, winner of sketching and drawing competition. Please do participate in our weekly online quiz, which is held every Thursday at 7 p.m. You can get the link from our Twitter handle, ICN Twitter handle, Indian Cultural Network's Twitter handle, every Thursday at 7 p.m. Many congratulations to all the winners. I request everyone to be kindly seated. I request all the winners to please be seated. I once again congratulate all the winners and participants. Thank you so much, sir. Thank you, ma'am. And with this, we come to the end of today's program. And on behalf of the Embassy, I extend my heartfelt thanks to all the excellencies, esteemed dignitaries, friends who joined us live, members of associations and media fraternity for their presence. I thank His Excellency Shri C.B. George and Madam Joy Sibi for their constant support, guidance and encouragement, without whose support this would have not been possible. Thank you once again to everyone for joining us. Have a good day. Jai Hind. I humbly request all the excellencies to proceed to India House. I request my colleagues